Hi Nayanava. Welcome to uBlog.
Hi
So
Shivam,
thanks for taking out time and coming live. So I
no
really
worries,
appreciate
man.
this.
Thank you so
So
much.
yeah, so let's just wait for like 30 seconds or 1 minute to have our online viewers, and then we can start. Till then,
Sure.
if you have any questions in the comments, then we can take it up, or we just wait for a minute and then we start.
Yep, sure. I can see one question here, how to start in the first year. I'm not sure if the viewer is like, but just take it easy. You're just in the first year. Get to learn the basics of computer science properly. That is the most important thing. People jump onto multiple things here and there, but they forget focusing on the main basic things. The
Right.
fundamentals are the most important things. You remember when in school, when we were in class one, we used to be taught problems of class one, not of class 10,
Exactly.
because there is a reason why it is that way. It's very important to build up on the fundamentals.
Right. Totally agreed.
Java versus C++ for competitive programming. We are not here to discuss about competitive programming actually. It's more of an interview preparation. Please understand that competitive programming is very good, but not a necessary condition to clear interviews.
Yep.
Even then, if you say Java versus C++ for competitive programming, I think C++ is good because they have amazing set of libraries, which Java doesn't provide often. But yeah, and in terms of interviews, you can just go ahead with either of the language. One of the competitive programming, sorry, one of the object-oriented programming languages is important. So yeah, that will help. Tell us about. Okay, please go ahead and Shivam, you can choose questions.
Yeah, maybe so. Let's start with firstly your introduction so that people know about you, and then we can jump on to questions.
Right. So I'm planning to give my introduction in such a way so that people can understand my journey as well.
Yeah,
So yeah, that should help you. So I'll tell you. I graduated from Techno India Salt Lake, Kolkata, in computer science and engineering in the year 2013. I didn't have a job on campus. I got rejected by TCS and multiple other organizations. I was in a dilemma, so I started preparing for GATE as well. I mean, I thought I would do MTech and then gradually move ahead. But there was this test, PH test by the name. It's hosted by
hey, I think your voice is breaking. I'm not able to hear you. Very less, very less. Yeah, sure. Take your time.
maybe
You're
I'll
not
disconnect
audible.
and join back. Give me a
Yeah, yeah,
moment.
yeah. Now you're audible.
Uh,
Now you're
okay,
audible.
okay, cool. Sorry for the glitch, guys. Really sorry. Yeah. So what I was saying is, so I appeared in the PH test. I had a good score, and eLitmus has tie-ups with a very good number of organizations. So I started getting calls from quite a few number of companies, and out of them I cracked Amadeus Software Labs. I wanted to join as a developer, but they gave me QA, and the work was not really fascinating, not something that I liked. What I did then was I started preparing on data structures and algorithms, not competitive programming, but basic data structures and algorithms, because I wanted to, at least during that period of time, we knew that for 2 years experience, they weren't, or 1.5 to 2 years experience, they weren't expecting the candidates to be, very thorough with all these preparations like system design or coding, that stuff. So the main focus was on data structures and algorithms. So that's what I focused on, and I managed to crack three organizations: Snapdeal, Fiberlink, and Hoopla. So yeah, I joined Snapdeal, and after joining Snapdeal, I actually realized that the kind of work that happens in an organization is quite different from uh, that we do for preparing in an interview. It's not data structures and algorithms anymore after that. So it is important that once you get into the job, you understand everything very nicely, because the most amount of learning happens when you have joined in the organization. You get the platform to do everything. So imagine you have people, you have millions of users. You get the scale, you can build applications however you want. You will see the traffic, you will see all the different sorts of problems that you can encounter while building a scalable system. So it's the best place for you to learn. You'll not, the rest of the other things that you learn is theoretical, but this is the place where you get to learn everything practically. Yeah. So after that, I became a complete developer. Like I was a backend developer in Snapdeal for almost 2 years, and then I jumped to Target. I stayed there for only 6 months. The distance was a lot from my house, and then I moved to PhonePe actually. In PhonePe, I got to build a lot of stuffs. I worked in PhonePe for 2.5 years, and after that, I joined Microsoft recently, two months back. Yeah, yeah. So that's kind of my journey in brief. I didn't want to discuss my journey too much because people will have a lot of questions. I didn't want to spend the time discussing about it.
Yeah, so but really like you have a very great journey starting from not getting placed in campus and then clearing
Yeah,
companies, some good companies like PhonePe and Snapdeal. So that's really great. People
yeah,
can really learn from your journey. So
yep, yep.
so yeah, so basically, when did you started like coding actively? Was it in your college time or after that?
So when I was in my college, I didn't have much of an idea about coding. We didn't have that much of an exposure. So I'll say the real coding started after I had completed the elite mass examination, and then when I was preparing for interviews, that was when I started. Like not really thoroughly, but normally. So I think I would have done one page of gigs for gigs in arrays and trees at that point in time. So that's what. But yeah, when I started preparing for Snapdeal, the time when I interviewed with Snapdeal, that is when I actually started coding data
Okay,
structures and algorithms. I went through gigs for gigs only at that point in time.
okay. And did you also jump to competitive programming after that?
No, no, I never. I am not much of a fan of competitive programming because maybe first thing I am a little weak, and secondly, I feel I have seen the deep tools of code forces and deep threes. They have a lot of mathematics related problems into mathematics more than data structures and algorithms. That is not. I mean, that is good definitely, but that may not be what is exactly required in your companies. Even if you work into that kind of a low level position. When I say low level, I mean say you are actually designing databases and stuffs. That is not what you would require. You may require some sort of mathematics, but in terms of say computation and performance, but not exactly when you are uh, building the database. You would be focusing more on the data structures and what exact algorithms you would implement, like let's say the SSL trees, structured merge trees, and all those stuff where you would need AVL search trees and all those things. So yeah, I don't think competitive programming is a very important part or integral part of getting uh, getting into an interview or surviving in an organization. Shucks, power cut. But I'm online. I mean, you can hear me because I have got
Yeah,
UPS backup.
yeah, that's okay. So I hope it lasts for some time.
It's back. Yeah.
Okay, fine. So based on your experience, like while you were preparing for Snapdeal and other companies, you mentioned PhonePe, Microsoft. So would you like to recommend like how one should prepare for these companies? Like because people are generally confused, they directly jump to competitive programming and they like they struggle there. So they don't have much idea like how should they exactly focus their preparations for such companies. So if you can guide them.
Okay. Right. So the preparation would be two sorts. I would break it into two categories. One is for software development engineer roles, that is SD1, and then comes your senior roles where you prepare for SD2 or SD3 or anything. So for SD1, what is important is to mainly focus on data structures and algorithms. I think gigs for gigs and lead code is more than enough for the preparation, and also you need to focus on the low level designs like class designs and all those stuffs where maybe you're given a very low level design kind of a thing, design a parking lot kind of a question where you have to come up with class diagrams and all of this, the entity relationships and all of these stuffs. So that's what I would recommend for preparing for an SD1 role. In fact, yeah, threading, concepts of multi-threading would also be very important, I think, because that's where it starts, right? So yeah. Multi-threading would be very important. Multi-threading, I think, is kind of important for all the different roles that you apply for. Yeah, for SD2, again, data structures and algorithms would be an integral part. It's extremely important. And for the other part, the most important part would be system design, right? Say high-level system design as well as low-level system design, where you would be asked to kind of come up with, say a design for Book My Show or a Swiggy, and then you have to design that. You have to choose the right kind of storages. You have to choose the right kind of caches and Elasticsearch and all those stuff. So yeah, so those are the
So
two things that you have to prepare for mainly.
Nanawa, you are
Sorry, Shivam, am I audible?
you're fine. So I think there's so now it's fine. I think in the, yeah, you are audible now.
Okay, I cannot hear you now. I don't know, guys. Can you see me? Like, I cannot see Shivam right now. Um, yeah, in case, so I can see a lot of questions here. Maybe I'll take up a few of the questions. Employees' resumes generally are not shortlisted. Okay, I have this from Godsend. Why most of the service-based company employees' resumes generally are not shortlisted for top product-based companies. Shivam, can you hear me now?
Yeah, sorry. There were network glitches on my end. Really sorry
Yeah,
for
no
that.
problem. So
So,
I actually thought of taking up one question in the middle when you are not there. This is by Godsend.
mhm.
Why most of the service-based company employees' resumes generally are not shortlisted by top product-based companies. I don't think this is true because I have seen quite a few of my friends coming from TCS and joining the big organizations. Often, if your resume doesn't get shortlisted, maybe you can go ahead asking for a referral. That would really help. Sometimes referrals are a good way to get calls from companies. Or sometimes what happens is some organizations are possibly looking for certain skill and beyond, so they have a very specific target, and maybe that is one of the reasons why the profiles don't get shortlisted.
Yeah, right. So Naina, basically one question I have for you is, so for
Mhm.
people who don't have competitive programming background, so
Mhm.
how should they what should be their how should they like go for the coding round which companies have like Amazon or any company has the first round as coding round. So how should they go about it?
Right. So see, even so, I actually prepared from lead code. The last time when I prepared, this year when I prepared from lead code, and lead code kind of I find is very similar to these coding rounds that the organizations host. Like say, they will have where you have to only implement the method that is exactly given to you. That's kind of the exact framework which lead code also provides. And lead code also has contests where you can time your coding algorithms that you write. So they have say 4 questions, and you have 1.5 hours to time them. And secondly, say if you're not into competitive programming, so competitive programming, the good part about short duration competitive programming is that you write code fast so that you can complete say X number of problems within the given time. That is exactly the kind of situation you are in when you're appearing in your coding rounds. Say they have 1.5 hours and you have to solve 2 questions or 3 questions. So in those scenarios, I think even LeetCode has the same kind of a concept where in the contest they host, you can take up say 4 questions in 1.5 hours. Or what you can even do is you can actually set a timer for yourself. Say you can set 15 minutes to think of the problem, 15 minutes to code the problem. Yeah, and even in case you cannot come up with a solution, maybe you can go ahead and look up the solution, because the coding rounds or even the problem solving and data structures rounds are scheduled in such a way that they have only 45 minutes. So it should not be such that you take 1.5 hours to think through a problem usually. Then what happens is that you are not used to thinking fast, and if you are not used to thinking fast, you will not be able to think fast during the contest as well. So it's good contest or the coding round as well. So it's a good practice to set timers and solve problems. You set 15 minutes to set 10 minutes to think through the problem, 10 minutes to scribble through the problem, and then next 10 minutes to code the problem. So 30 minutes to solve a problem.
Right, right. This can be a like great approach. So let's take up a question from freshers. So generally,
Sure.
the freshers have a doubt that how many projects should they have in the resumes, and does these projects matter during interviews? So what are your views on this?
Okay, I didn't do a single internship and I didn't have a single project in on under my belt. So yeah, see, having said that, it is not something that everyone has to follow. Some people can do projects. People can do some some technology related stuffs that are occurring every day or something that the industry uses these days. But having said that, it's very important that you understand the concepts properly, the fundamentals of computer science properly. Reason being, once you become a proper developer, once you join an organization where you are, handling a lot of scale, when you are solving scalable problems, you have to understand how the operating system works, how threads work, and what is thread contention, what is thread starvation, where to use WebSockets, where to use long polling, where to use normal polling, how HTTP requests work, what are IP addresses, how they change frequently, what is a TCP layer, and all of these stuff. Like, it's extremely important. So
Right,
recently, I was designing a document for one of my code changes. So in that, I kind of was implementing everything. Like, I literally went down into the port and I was thinking, what happens at a port? What happens when multiple requests land at a port? How do the responses get flushed through the port to the layers to the network? So like everything, these are very important. So it's extremely important that we understand operating systems properly. We have the proper understanding of computer networking. We have to understand what are IP addresses, what are public IP addresses and private IP addresses, why the concept of public and private IP addresses. Then what is a bandwidth? Like, why what is network bandwidth? It's extremely important. All of this stuff. So all of these stuff are actually taught in our colleges itself, but we do not focus on all these things because we are only focusing on
right,
data structures and algorithms. Just as important it is for cracking interviews, data structures and algorithms, it is extremely important that you get to learn all of these stuffs as well, because in the long run, all of these stuffs become more important, and data structures and algorithms will gradually start to, become less important, because
right.
you have to understand how to handle, scale. Or even if you're in a data science project, you have to understand how to feed your models with such how you would train your models with such big amount of data sets. So it is very important. It's not just data structures and algorithms. It's a lot more than that.
Right,
I'm
totally
pretty
agree.
sure Shivam, even you, I'm pretty sure even you do the same thing, right? I mean, how many
Right,
lines of
right,
data structures and algorithms do you write, and how much of
right.
all these things come into use?
Right, right. So these things generally like are important till to get clear the interview, and then the thing is totally opposite after that.
Yeah,
So I agree. So let's take up next question. So basically, these days when we open our LinkedIn, we see a lot of people, students posting their course certificates that they did such and such course from Coursera or some other organizations. So I have questions from multiple peoples that since they are not doing such stuff, so like does doing these courses or getting these certificates matter, or do they help in getting placed at a good product-based company?
yeah, as long as you're learning something, it's good, but I don't think the certificates matter at all. Like, maybe for certain areas the certificates matter, but say cybersecurity or something like that, maybe the certificates would matter. But for the other cases, I don't think certificates matter. Not at all. I mean, I do not have any certificates at all, like none at all, none, nothing.
Right,
So
since
yeah,
these yeah, so since these certificates are just like participation certificate, they don't give credibility that
right,
you actually learned something out of those.
right,
So unless you are learning and then implementing such stuff, so they really don't like would mean a lot. So
yeah.
let's hear from you your like Microsoft interview experience. Like how was it? And basically, if you can start from like 6 months or 2 months before you started preparing for the interview. So how those 2 months were? What all you prepared? What areas you focused on?
Okay, so actually, for a matter of fact, I wasn't preparing for Microsoft. Like, I didn't have that. I mean, yeah, obviously Microsoft was always a dream, but I didn't have that mindset of clearing Microsoft. I was actually solving a lot of problems. data structures and algorithms mainly because having worked at PhonePe, what happens is that I got to learn a lot about system designs automatically. So I never focused much on system designing from the interview perspective. Uh, but yeah, for data structures and algorithms, I practiced a lot. I think I've solved around 750 problems on LeetCode, including medium, hard, and easy problems. So yeah, uh, problem solving actually helps a lot. To it kind of keeps you interview ready for any time, any situation that you are in. So my preparation was always coding, not much of system design. Yeah, so I think I prepared for 1 month before appearing in Microsoft's interview, and yeah, I got a call on Friday and I appeared on Saturday. So not I wasn't very certain about the Microsoft interview actually. Like it was not something that was scheduled for a very long time. Yeah, so didn't get much of a time to prepare for Microsoft. But yeah, as I said, I was already preparing for 1.5 months, I think, for problem solving and data structures. So that helped a lot.
Okay. And how was your interview experience? Like, basically, if you can tell us about how many rounds
Yeah.
and mainly which what round was mainly focused on which areas.
So yeah, I had actually 4 rounds of interview. Two of them were problem solving and data structures. One of them was low level system design, and the fourth round was, as I said, architectural system design round. So I was kind of asked to design one of these famous design questions was asked to me. So yeah, that's what I think most of the organizations they ask to design, say Swiggy or Uber or Ola or book my show, something like that. So yeah, I also kind of had one of these questions to design.
Uh, Right. So let's take a question from our viewer. So
Yeah.
basically, Chandan wants to know after 2 years of a career, how to prepare for SD2 for product-based companies.
Yeah. So yeah, it is important to understand if you see. So as I said, it's very different working in an organization and then if preparing for the interview. For interview preparation, it's like given. You have to prepare for problem solving and data structures, and if you are preparing for SD2, you have to go ahead and prepare for low-level system designs and architectural system design rounds. Where, as I said, you may be asked questions on how to design a book my show or a Uber or something like that. So yeah, system design round would be very important if you have to crack SD2 levels. And yeah, as well as including that, I think even multi-threading and concepts of multi-threading would be very important.
Right.
So yeah,
So
that's
let's
like I think after any experience. Yeah.
right. So how to prepare for OS and DBMS for campus placements? What should be the approach?
Okay, so when you say DBMS, do you mean like SQL queries kind of a thing? Because that's not what is asked in interviews. I haven't seen uh, anyone asking me to write a SQL query in an interview. But if you say from DBMS, like relational database point of view, then it is extremely important to understand what is normalization, what is denormalization. Obviously, for RDBMS, it's normalization, but it is important to understand what normalization is, what is 2NF, 3NF, BCNF, and all those stuffs. And also, it is very important to understand the underlying storage engine, how B tree and B plus tree works, how the data gets stored in the database and all of these stuffs. That is what would be my suggestion to prepare from a DBMS point of view. Yeah, also locking mechanisms, like the different kinds of locks, read locks, write locks, and all of these stuffs. If you want to go ahead and understand more, you can actually understand what is an append only file and how data gets written into append only file, how they behave, and all of these stuffs. But may not be necessary for freshers. Operating system, again, I think threading would be an important part of operating system. How the threads work. Then you have to, study about preemptions and all of those stuffs.
Right. So
Yeah.
let's move. So what do you just suggest knowing top technologies help or data structures in interview?
Technology is ever evolving, right? So nothing stays forever. Like today there is Java and Python, maybe something else will come up tomorrow, something else will come up after that. So technology is never fixed; it will keep on changing. Why it is important to understand data structures and algorithms is because everything is built from the fundamentals. Everything has a fundamental pillar. So once the pillar is built, everything evolves out of the pillar. So if you have proper understanding of basic computer science, and data structures and algorithms is a core part of basic computer science. If you have the proper understanding of basic computer science, you can always evolve yourself along with the technology. So it's very important to properly prepare through data structures for interviews. No one will
Right.
ask questions on technologies. Yeah.
Right. Like a lot of students are confused, like if they want to get internship in Microsoft, so how do they apply, when they need to apply, and if they are from tier 3 college, so what's the process for them? So if you would know
This is
the
a
internship
this
process.
is a question. The internship process question is something that I'm not really very thoroughly aware of. I have to ask my recruiters as to how one has to apply for internships. But I've seen that the career pages at Microsoft actually has internships listed under them. So I think you have to apply. You can go and apply there as well. Yeah, and
Yeah.
sometimes what happens is if there are openings for internships, you can ask for a referral to employees at Microsoft. So through them also you can get into it, get chances for internships, at least calls.
Right. So, so as a beginner, sometimes it's get intimidating when we see so many problems to solve in DSL Go. How did you navigate during the times of intimation and when you didn't understand stuff?
Yeah, Akram. So this is something that happens to each and everyone. So what I would suggest is take it easy. Like go easy. There is nothing like you have to be paranoid if you're not able to solve one single problem. It's not that. See, the okay. Let me explain it in this way. When you're sitting in an interview and when you have 45 minutes and a question is asked to you, you are not supposed to invent an algorithm. You are supposed to implement one of the algorithms that you have learned and solve the problem, which means that there is a limited or a finite number of algorithms that you need to understand. The more the number of algorithms you know, that and the more exposure you have to solving these algorithms, the easier it is to solve the problem in an interview. Now, having said that, what happens is our brain is not always matured, or we do not understand the problems at the first go sometimes. So you start from easy problems and gradually go to medium problems. Once you're comfortable with the easy problems, then jump to the medium problems. Or sometimes you can do this, that if you visit LeetCode, you'll see that there are questions which are linked. So when you're not able to solve a certain problem, you spend 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. If you're not able to come up with a solution, do this. Understand the solution, understand the concept behind the solution. Once you've understood the concept behind the solution, solve that particular problem, and then you'll see related questions in LeetCode. Click the related question and solve the related questions. Often and on, the related questions are actually related. So what happens is you get to apply the previous concept that you just learned. So what happens? You have now exposure for that particular algorithm. Similarly, you take approaches in that way. Don't be disheartened if you are not able to solve one particular problem. That is absolutely fine. Go learn the solution and then apply it in other questions. So you improve as a programmer when you actually solve the same type of problem in multiple places. When you apply concepts more and more, you will be more and more confident in applying those questions when it comes to your problem solving. So don't be intimidated by the number of questions. Don't look at the number of questions. Go easy, start easy, start from the easy problems, then solve the related problems, as well as go and solve the medium problems. And after that, you can eventually you will see that you are able to solve the hard problems as well. That's exactly how I did it. Because when I started LeetCode, even I realized I wouldn't be able to solve a single problem. But gradually, I ended up solving 750 problems. So that's how I did it. Like you have to understand the concept and solve the problem.
Right. So let's take up next question. So Mohak wants to know, I'm in BCA. Should I start preparing for SD1 roles or pursue MCA and then apply for SD1 roles?
Uh, the important factor here would be are there companies visiting your college and hiring BCA candidates, or are you really good as a programmer, as an engineer? If you're really good, then I think you can still apply for SD1 roles. But if you think that MCA will improve your exposure, then please go ahead for MCA and then apply for SD1 roles, because obviously a master's degree I think will improve your exposure.
Right. So let's take next question. So should someone go for SD2 or 1 after 2 years in a startup?
It depends on the Okay, for in a startup, yeah. Since you have worked in a startup, if you have really had the kind of exposure, like I have seen people in my in PhonePe who were only 2.5 or 3 years experience and knew a lot of things, a lot of stuff. Like they could literally design systems from the scratch. So if you have that kind of an ability, then it is fair enough to go ahead for SD2 roles. But if you think that you are not confident enough in building systems in working at scale, then I think you can apply for SD1 roles as well. And sometimes even the interviewers decide which role to allot to you, depending
Right,
on your quality of interview. Yeah.
right. So let's move. So I'm in second year student now. I am confused about how I manage TSA and development together. So I realized at the time I waste a lot of time. Please guide.
Mhm. Okay, so you are in the second year now. It's very important that you focus on data structures and algorithms first, and then you can go ahead with development because the core fundamentals are built from data structures and algorithms. Obviously, development you want to do development, that's good. You can do it when you are extremely strong in all of these topics. As I say, data structures and algorithms, operating systems, and all of this stuff. See, you have to understand something. See, you become a web developer. Okay, you have written a backend code. You have a backend server which runs the code. Now, imagine you had an amazing idea in your mind, and you developed something super cool. And now you're starting to see a lot of traffic. What happens after that? Can you handle the traffic?
Right,
You have to understand that if you're not able to handle the traffic, then your application will crash. You will not be able to scale your system. So to scale your system, to be able to sustain the traffic, it is very important that you understand the crux of what holds the systems together. So at our age, like at your experience where you're just a student, it is very important to understand the basics properly, because when you have the basics built properly and when you go and see those scale in the organization, you will realize that okay, this is something that I've studied and I need to use it now. So it's implementing your normal your education to the real world problem. You will not be able to see these kind of scale when you're just developing a project in your college, right? No one would be using it. So it's very important that you focus on data structures and algorithms first. Focus on your basic fundamental computer science first. Once they are strongly developed, you can go ahead and do whatever you like whatever development. You want to do web development, go ahead. You like to do AI or ML, you're most welcome. But get the basics strong. That's very important. It's very important to understand the fundamentals.
right, right. So let's move. So how we can prepare for mock interviews before going for actual interview, and is company-wise questions practice helps.
Yeah, company-wise, practicing questions will help because you can understand the trend of questions that these organizations ask. So yeah, company-wise questions is very good. I would recommend. Mock interviews. See, there are two ways you can take up mock interviews. One is you have these websites, right? I'm unable to recall the name right now. Um, I'm unable to recall the name of this mock interview platform. Pramp, yeah, Pramp. Pramp is the name of the mock interview platform where you can go ahead and practice mock interviews. But actual interviews, like if you're interviewing in a particular organization, what you can do is like something which you dream of to clear. What you can do is you can take up some smaller interviews prior to that before going and appearing in the main interview. So what happens is that you can actually understand that what is the trend of the market, like what people are currently looking for. That would be a plus. And secondly, you can understand what are the things that you don't know, or what are the things that you need to focus on. Which part of the algorithm you do not understand, which part of data structures you are weak in. These are extremely important, according to me. So yeah, mock interview, Pramp, or you can actually take up some small interviews as well in startups and all of those places.
Right. So let's move. So I am a final year student and good at DS and Algo. Done a lot of questions on Geek for Geeks, but not good in web development. How can I apply in Amazon like company? How can I apply as a fresher?
Um, So yeah, I don't think Amazon cares about how good you are in web development, because what web development you have done would hardly be used in your in the organizations. Yeah. So yeah, how can you apply? I think you can apply on the career site. You can apply through referrals. If you're good at DS and Algo, I'm pretty sure you'll get a call from Amazon, because Amazon kind of gives calls to anybody. I mean, Amazon has this good culture where they give everybody the uh, you know. Um, the chance to come and apply. So that way, I'm pretty sure you will get a call if you apply on their career website, as well as you can ask for referrals. Yep,
Right.
but they do not care about your web development, believe me or not.
Right. Let's move. So Ritesh wants to know after how many years of graduation you landed in Microsoft.
6.5 years,
Okay.
a little more than that, yeah.
So Akshat, should I focus on lead code hard problems? I'm able to solve more than 100 medium problems on lead code.
I think it is fine to solve the medium problems and the easy problems first. I think what happens is some of the hard problems you will be able to solve just by solving the medium problems, because maybe they are they are an amalgamation of two medium level questions, or three medium level questions that would comprise of one lead code hard problem. Some hard problems, some typical hard problems are important to focus, like edit distance problems and all of these sort of problems which are very typical, which are important as a concept. You can practice, but I don't think you have to put your full focus on solving all lead code hard problems. Some problems will automatically happen because you have solved so many medium problems. So it's
Right.
not something that not a must solve. But yeah, you can give it a try. You can always try. If you are not able to solve, don't be disheartened. You can always look up the solution and understand the solution.
Right. So let's move. So did any referrals help in getting into Microsoft?
None for me actually. I got a call from. I mean, yeah. So how would I say this? I think one of my friends had referred me, but he had referred me for a different position, and I got a call for a different position for a different team. I'm not sure if it was through referrals actually.
Right. So I'm a CSE first year student from tier 3 college. What is the right time for doing internship and how does it help?
You're just a first year student. I'm pretty sure you would still be learning C, or you would be, solving mechanics problems and all of those stuff. So I'm not expecting you to be well aware of what computer science as a whole is. I think internships are good when you are in your third year. Mm, or yeah, you can even apply you in the second year if you get selected and you learn to if you learn about things, it's always good. How internships help in the way that you actually get to know how the industry works, or what are the technology trends that the industry uses. That is, I think, the most important part of doing an internship. You get the real world exposure when you are doing internships. But yeah, having said that, you have to do internships in good organizations to understand the industry trend.
Right.
And it's always a learning for you, right? Different sorts of learning. Not only you develop yourself in terms of technology, you also develop yourself in terms of an incoming software engineer,
Right.
the kind of culture and all of those stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, let's move. So how to prepare for system design, any resources to follow?
You're asking me at the ublogs interview website, then I have to say ublog is very good. Jokes apart, ublog is really good. And for system design, see, I'll tell you something. I have learned system design in a very different way. For me, system design is firstly to understand things in depth. If I do not understand a technology in depth, I will not be able to implement it for system designing. When I say this, what I mean is, say I very well understand how Redis works internally. I very well understand how Aerospike works internally. I very well understand what is a document store. I very well understand what is a column based database, what is an H base, what is Cassandra, what is the internal storage engine of a Cassandra, why it scales, everything. So that is how I prepare myself in terms of system design. This is not about preparation from an interview point of view, but something that I prefer doing it, because what happens is when you understand things in depth, it is very easy for you to do system designing. So what I would suggest is, you have this book, Designing Data Intensive Applications by Martin Klippman. That is a really very good book, something which talks in depth about each and everything. The like You're designing a distributed system, it will talk to you starting from a single server architecture. It will tell you what is a document store, it will tell you what is how the storage engines are built, it will tell you what is partition, it will tell you what is replication, it will tell you everything. Once you understand that, then your preparation for system design starts. How? You actually now have to put these things that you have learned in place to be able to design a system. So to design a system, you have to understand what fits in best. That is what you do for a system design, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, Shivam. That is what you do for a system interview,
Yeah,
right?
right. So basically, system design preparation comes with like when you're working, you learn new stuff, and then when you
Right.
implement it in your job, you learn it. So that's how to go about system design. So let's move.
Yeah.
You, I think you answered it very well. Let's move. So, so Godson want to know scope of software developers versus scope of AI ML developers in coming 15, 20 years in industry, and raising of threats to regular software developers by advanced growth of AI.
Hmm. Okay. I don't see a threat, man. If there is a threat, then I'll be doomed before you are. Uh, but yeah, see, these are two different problems. So software development is a different problem. AI ML solves a different problem. So let me tell you something like this. You want a startup. You're starting your own venture, and you do not have any traffic on your platform. You do not have any users on your platform, but you have a brilliant recommendation engine. You have implemented all those algorithms which will end up showing amazing recommendations. Now tell me, what would you run your AI and ML algorithms on if you do not have data to feed them? So backend is different. Backend, you can imagine it something like this. Say you are you as a parent is basically the software developer, and your child who will basically who will show you the final benefits is basically your AI and ML. So if you haven't built a software development architecture, if you do not have a proper framework, a proper platform which brings in data, you will have nothing to feed to the AI and ML systems. So it's like your baby, right? You have to feed your baby with something. If you do not earn, you cannot feed your baby. So software developers' role is basically to scale up system, write code, implement an idea. Your AI and ML will not implement ideas for you. So implementing the ideas, handling things at scale is a different problem from AI and ML problem. So yeah,
Right.
backend
I
is
really
extremely
like
important.
I really like the way you answered. So that would really clear doubts for like almost every one of them. So let's move. So I have done around 160 questions in LeetCode. Now I switch to web development using Go. So should I keep
Can you
doing
tell me, Sonu Kumar? So I would love to see your answer below. Why Go? What is one amazing aspect of Go? Please write it down. I want to see what you understand about Go. I mean, no, see, this is not something that I'm trying to demoralize you or something. It's something that I want to understand. Why choose Go? Why choose a particular language? Right? You have to understand the benefits that that particular language will reap out of it. It's not something very fancy that okay, something new has come up, so I will implement it. It's not like that. There is a reason why everything is used. There is a reason behind using Node.js. There is a reason behind using Java. There is a reason behind using Go. It's okay. You want to learn. It's always good. But my suggestions, 160 problems in LeetCode may just not be enough. You can always practice competitive programming. You can always practice competitive programming. That will keep you going, because when it comes to interviews, that is what people will ask you. So yeah, again, I'll say the same thing. Go is extremely high level. Like understanding C++ is way better than understanding Go at this point in time, because the more you know at a high level, the less you know about how systems work. See, I'll tell you something. Computer science engineering is basically that one single computer that you see at home. Okay, it all started from that one computer, which has a RAM, which has a CPU, which has some operating system built on top of it, which has some hard disks or SSDs. That is where computer science started, and everything evolved out of it. If you do not understand those parts of the system properly, everything else is of no use. I mean, it's not worth it. It's not worth becoming a very good computer science. It's not worth becoming an engineer, because you will not make a very good computer science engineer if you do not understand the parts and parcels properly, right? If I ask you why SSD and why HDD, I mean, why would you? Why do people choose SSD over HDDs? Why is it that let's say for Azure in Microsoft, why is it that we choose premium blobs over standard blobs? There is a reason. It all boils down to that single HDD machine where, in computer organization and architecture, we were taught that the disk head will rotate from a previous position, then it has to come to that particular track in the sector. It has to understand how many bytes it has to read, how many blocks it has to read. It will read those many bytes, and then it will send the data back to the main memory. So those operations are slow. It's very important to understand all of those stuffs. If you do not understand all of those stuffs, nothing will fall in place. Learning web development using Go will not fall in place. It's good to learn. See, that's what I'm saying. You have a passion, you learn, but what is more important is to understand the basics of computer science. That is very, very important. What you're learning is very high level. It's very superficial. You do not have an in-depth knowledge of everything. Even data structures and algorithms itself is not in-depth of everything. That is why we have all operating systems, algorithms. Sorry, we have operating systems, we have computer networks, we have DBMS. All this stuff. There is a reason, right? Otherwise, everything could have been completed in just 2 years. You go to the college, you understand data structures and algorithms, study data structures, DS and Algo, DS and Algo, DS and Algo, and done. That's not it.
Right.
It's different. It's different.
Right.
So it's very important to understand the entire computer.
Right. Exactly. So let's take up next question. So what would you look for if anyone reaches out to you for a referral?
Yeah, so I would be expecting that you have done some really good stuff in your current organization. If you are not a fresher, I would be expecting you to have done some cool stuffs. You have built some cool stuffs in your current organization, or at least if you have not gotten the opportunity to build some cool stuffs, at least your resume should show that you are thorough in your knowledge about whatever you have implemented. That is very important, because when I am referring somebody, the expectation is that I will be referring a good guy. You're getting the
Right.
point, right? So it is
So let's
important that you have that. Yeah.
so do we need to study system design if I'm going for SD1 if currently I am in third year and will be appearing for interviews exam?
Oh, you are in third year of what? Third year of college? No, no, you do not have
Yeah.
to prepare for system design interviews. No, 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 you do not have to. That's what I'm saying. When you are in college, just get your basics right. Understand those things like theory of computation. See, automata is something that you use in your everyday life. Any state transition is TOC. Internally uses finite state automata. So yeah, it's important that you learn all those topics: TOC, operating system, computer networking, RDBMS, computer organization and architecture. These five top subjects are very important. You understand these things properly, and along with that, data structures and algorithms. And if you appear in your interviews, I think you should be super good.
Right. So let's move. So did you have any prior experience in competitive programming or you just
No,
did
I
these?
didn't have. I didn't have any experience in competitive programming. I just practiced data structures and algorithms, and along with that,
Right.
I studied all of these stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's move. So what are the DSLGO questions that were asked in Maximum 2? Also, if you're interviewing anyone, what is the most important skill you look? So let's skip the first part because I don't think
Like
it's
I have
ethical.
ANDA, so I cannot ask. I cannot answer
Yeah.
those questions.
Yeah. But I think you can take next question that if you are interviewing anyone, what is the most important skill you will look in for in the candidate?
Right. So I follow this policy where, see, I do not want to judge you on what you do not know. I want to judge you on how much you know what you know.
Right.
That is the most important skill that I look in an interview, in an interview, in a candidate. So if you have worked on a particular topic and you do not understand the nitty-gritties of that particular technology, then I think it's not worth hiring. So very simple example, let's say you work on Java, you have always worked on Java and you do not understand how the Java memory management works, then I'll not be hiring you. Reason being, it is extremely important. You have to know how to scale your VM, right? What is the sweet point of a VM? It's very important to understand all of those stuffs. You have to understand, like, say you have worked on REST APIs, you have built microservices. I would be expecting you to have proper understanding of threading concepts. Like, so you have a request response model. How many threads would you assign to a particular request to your application? Um, Imagine a situation I gave you where your system is clogging. What would you do? Would you increase threads, decrease threads, solve the short circuit the calls? How would you solve the problem? So I would see how good you answer all of these questions. That is what I would look in an interview, in a candidate.
Right, let's move. So, how can we get or ask for referral of Microsoft and other companies if we practice on Lead Code and Geeks for Geeks only, as on other platforms like CodeChef, Codeforces, they have rating systems.
I am not really. I don't really think that Microsoft cares about your, ranking on code chef and code forces. I don't know if most companies do, but I haven't. I don't think Microsoft does. And for referral, yeah, if you are a fresher, then Microsoft doesn't hire via referral. You can all. I think yeah. So off campuses and on campuses are the only way Microsoft hires for freshers. But yeah, if you're an engineer with 1.5 2 years of experience, then you can always ask for referrals from people on LinkedIn who are working at Microsoft. You can even contact me directly if required.
Right. So, what is the scope of data scientist roles in coming years on top product-based companies?
So top product-based companies, as far as I know, do not hire candidates without any experience in data scientist roles. You have to be either an MS, either a master's in. You have to hold a master's in data science program, or you have to have relevant years of experience. But yeah, scope of data scientists, obviously, the scope will be huge because we play with a lot of data today, and analytics is kind of is one of the most important parts of product-based companies or any organization for that matter. Data understanding data is very important, so data scientists will always have important roles.
Right.
Always, I mean, yeah, not only in coming years, it has even today.
Yeah. So if we just learn everything DS only, OS, DBMS after that, how to get an interview? Basically, how should your resume look like to get selected without CP or hackathons?
Okay, if we just learn how to get an interview. The problem is I do not understand if you are a fresher or if you are experienced. If you are a fresher, I think you can always ask, if you're a fresher, you can ask for referrals. Sometimes, I'm not sure, some organizations will not have referrals. But yeah, if for many organizations, referrals will work. And obviously, off-campus interviews, you have to be aware if your particular company is organizing off-campus interviews, and how should your resume look like to get selected. You should explain what are the things that you have you are well aware of. I would say, having if you're doing an internship, obviously internship goes on the first. Then the different sorts of projects that you have worked on, that is very important. You can put that as well. Yeah, that should be it. And if you want to do CP or hackathons, you can always go ahead and do it. But what I'm saying is it's not necessary that you have to do it. People without CP or hackathons also, are doing really great. There are many people who do not have CPs or hackathons in their resume.
Right.
Yeah.
So, so if we have a chance to join service company in current scenario versus leaving that and prepare DSC and wait for referrals to clear, what will you suggest?
See, I think it's always better to join an organization. Reason being, it will give you the exposure to the industry. You will get to learn some real world problems. It is a myth that people working in service based companies do not get in product based companies. No, it is not like that. And actually, if you have 2 years of experience, it is easier for you to get referrals than for freshers
Right.
because you have something to show on your resume. Right? Yeah.
Right. So how to change our thinking to develop an optimized solution for a specific problem?
Yeah, start brute force. You always have to start with brute force, and then you have to understand like where exactly you are applying the brute force and how you can optimize that particular portion. Break your problem into sub problems and think through those sub problems, how you optimize that particular sub problem. That is how you have to optimize your solution. Yeah, and it would be easier if I could explain it with an example. But apart from that, in this way, I think when the question is very generic, that is what I do. I mean, I start off thinking of the very brute force approach, and then I go ahead and think how I would want to solve it. How I would want to optimize, or I would try to understand which part of the problem I could optimize,
Right.
and then go ahead with it. Yeah.
Right. So Chetan wants to know how to prioritize questions on lead code.
How to prioritize questions on lead code? You can always start by topics. I think lead code has topics in it, so you can actually see the trend as to which questions are which topic is more important for you for preparing. So you can go ahead and prioritize based on the topics. So what I do is, how I prepared on lead code is, I always prepared in a breadth first approach. So what I did is, let's say if there are 12 topics, I would pick up three topics a day. I would say spend 5 to 6 hours in a day solving problems. So I would give two hours each to each of the topics. So this way, what I'm doing is I'm basically solving two problems of three different topics every day, and that is the breakfast approach that I always take. So three topics, two problems from three topics each. So I have solved six problems and I've solved three topics, and gradually, and that is how I do it. So the next day I will take another three topics. The next day I'll take another three topics, and then once all the topics are covered, I again start from the first. What you can do is, if there are certain topics which you are very weak in, you can add that topic every day, or say 3 days a week. That is how you can schedule your approach. And at the end of 30 days, you will see that you have ended up solving, like, how many, 500 problems, no, sorry, 180 problems. 30 into 6, 180 problems you would have ended up solving, and of different categories. So different topics you have picked up, different topics you have chosen, and you have solved problems from all the different topics. So you have covered depth wise 180 problems, and horizontally also you have covered, say, so many topics together. So there is no one particular topic that you have to worry about.
Right. So how to handle rejections on interviews?
It is sometimes it is a little disheartening, but sometimes everything happens for a good, for the good. So just think about it, where you could have say, okay. So there are two parts to it. Sometimes what happens is, sometimes the rejections are because you didn't know something. If that is the case, then you can always say this to yourself, that these are the things that I need to work on and improve, so that the next time I appear in the interview, I clear it. And the other part is when you literally don't know where you went wrong. You can always ask for feedbacks in those particular cases. But if sometimes your feedback is good and you still do not get hired, just don't bother. Just move on, because you are not bad. It was not your problem because of which you did not get, right? So sometimes situations are also such that you do not clear, and it has happened to me personally, like, where I had a very good interview and then I didn't get selected. So rejections from interviews, the most important thing is always take it as a learning. Take it as a learning. So it's very important that you handle such situations and learn from those rejections. Because I got rejected from Microsoft thrice. Uh, so yeah, that is okay. No, sorry, not thrice. I mean twice, and I got offer in the third time. So that should be okay. No problem, as long as you're improving.
Right. Let's move to next. So does the tech stack matter for senior role interviews? As I see all the backend engineers use Java and I have Python full stack experience.
You are good actually if you have Python and full stack experience. Now, don't worry about the language. Don't worry about Python or Java, because so okay, I have worked for 6.5 years in Java, and now I switch to C sharp. So language is not a problem. Being a full stack developer, I think it's an added advantage for you. Um, Languages you can always learn, because Python also internally, it's an object oriented programming language. So there would not be a vast difference between Java and Python when it comes to coding. So that way, I think you're at a very good position. Don't worry about all of these things. Just make sure that whatever you know in depth. That will help you crack interviews. And full stack developers are in a lot of demand these days, man.
Right. So let's take up one or two more questions and then we can wrap it up. So how to
Sure.
be updated about tax?
You can actually, sign up on different channels, different, how do I say, different websites. Like, I often listen to this software engineering daily podcast. That is really good. And then I actually explore technologies. So what happens is, let's say I start off with Redis, and then I get to know about multiple other technologies that could be an alternative for Redis. So how to keep updated about tech? See, there are millions of things happening every day. It is not possible for you to know each and everything, but at least in your field, if you do your research properly, you will see that you will come to know about all these different technologies every day. Medium.com is a very good place where you can get updates about technologies. But having said that, you get to know about the technology. Make sure that you if you're planning to learn in depth, it's important that you understand and read the documentation of those particular tech websites. That is the best place to get the best knowledge, because they are the guys who have developed it. So it's very important that you read their documentations. I have always preferred reading documentations of tech stacks instead of watching YouTube videos or something like that.
Right. So let's move. So due to global pandemic, will we see drop in recruitment in the top product-based companies?
No, I think they're coming back actually. So Microsoft will start hiring again. Even Amazon is opening up slots for, I think, 50,000 candidates, something like that. Facebook is hiring, Google is hiring, everybody is hiring. So there was a glitch because of the situation, but now I think everything will be back in place, because COVID will be the new normal. You cannot help it.
Right. So let's just
Yeah.
take last question. So how did
Yeah.
you prepare for graph and DP? So these are the some topics which students generally struggle at, the graph and DP part.
Right. So, graph, what I did is, see, graph is one of my strongest part in data structures and algorithms. The reason being, I'll tell you something. Graph has only a very few set of algorithms. Graph doesn't, at least what is asked in interviews, graph will not have like millions of different sorts of algorithms or something like that. You'll have your topological sorting, you will have DFS with DP, or you will have your breadth first search approach where you implement your Khan's algorithm. You will have Prim's algorithm, Kruskal's minimum spanning trees, or you will have your Dijkstra's algorithm. If you know BFS, basically you know Dijkstra, you know Dial's algorithm, everything. Reason being, all these are built out of BFS. Just that the priority queue, just that the storage changes. Instead of a queue, you opt for a priority queue. So having said that, graph has very limited set of algorithms. So my approach was, I first studied all these algorithms from Geeks for Geeks, the basic algorithms, DFS, BFS, topological sorting, and all of those. Once I have learned all these algorithms, then I started solving problems on LeetCode. That is how I did graph. And for DP, what I did is, DP I actually used to solve. I solved some problems, like the basic typical problems. You have your how do I say? You have your coin change problem, you have your bounded knapsack, you have your unbounded knapsack, and all of these. So first I learned all of these techniques. So you can actually classify your DP problems into certain set of problems. DP problems will not be something which are like out of the blue. Most of the algorithms will actually relate to all of these problems. So apart from that, trying to relate is one of the things. And what I did was, I put DP every day. I would solve two problems of DP every day. uh, so that would actually help me keep up with DP, and improve, because I got a lot of exposure. It helped me improve in DP as well. So that is how I solve DP.
Right. So let's just take one more question because I see Ayush has been pasting this question again and again. So he wants the question to be answered. So sorry for keeping you like.
No, no, no problem. I can actually take questions if you are okay for another 5 minutes, 10 minutes. But yeah,
So let's take then a few more questions. So how
yeah,
to prepare
yeah.
for SD1 interview if you are already working in service-based companies and having experience of 0 to 3 years?
Okay, so see, as I said, if you're preparing for SD1 interviews, data structures and algorithms is the way to go about it. Now, since you're saying that you are already working, and what you mean by this is that you have to segregate time between your work and your preparation, you have to understand something. You have to be very relentless. If you have to get into one of these top organizations, you have to prepare relentlessly. You cannot say that, oh, I'm tired today, I am not going to be able to study. Make sure that you spend at least 2 hours, solving problems. So if you solve, say, 2 to 3 problems in a day, also that way, also you are making a lot of progress. And since you have made a lot of progress, you will see that you feel very much comfortable. You have your weekends to exploit. You can, go ahead and study 10 to 12 hours on your weekends if you are really desperate for a change. And I'm pretty sure, even if you are from a service-based firm, you will get calls from different organizations. So that is how I would suggest: study, keep studying. If you do not get time someday, at least solve two problems. Just solve two problems, that's enough. But don't give up. That will keep you
Right.
going. Yeah, that is the best way to go about it.
Right. So Ravi wants to know, I am working as a full stack developer for bank domain company. Will it be easy to search on SD working platforms, or they search only for specific previous domain?
No one actually talks about domain. If you get a call, you have to prove yourself. You have to prove your metal. You have to prove that you are really good in designing systems. You are good at low-level system design, and you have to be good at problem solving. That's it. I do not think domain is a concern. And since you are a full stack developer, I think it's good because many organizations actually are looking for full stack developers. So
Right.
domain doesn't matter. I don't know how many domains I switched. I switched from e-commerce to payments to right now I'm in Microsoft Teams. So feeds and notification. That's kind of real time messaging system. So yeah, domain doesn't matter according to me.
Right. So apart from DS, what are the some of the technologies which may be given importance in SD role interview?
I think operating systems will be important. You may be asked questions on theory of computation, some finite state automata. How would you handle state transitions and all of these things? Threading could be asked. Sometimes threading is important. Relational databases will be very important. If in certain organization, this relational, not the SQL queries, but the relational database related questions like how a B tree functions, how a B plus tree functions could come up. Those are important, and knowing about computer networking is also good. Is a really it's a plus.
Right. So I'm placed in service-based company, but preparing my core subjects properly till my joining comes and looking for better company. Am I doing good?
Yeah, you're doing good. You're doing the right thing.
Right. So let's move. So if someone is good in so if someone is good in DSA, what would you recommend now to a third year student to go get intern or join in a product-based company or Microsoft?
Um, yeah, if you're a third year student and you are already good in data structures and algorithms, please go ahead with internships. Internships is a great way to multiple things. You can get PPO as well if you have done a great internship. So internship is really good. And I mean, how does a third year student join product based companies? Like I didn't get your question. If you're asking to try and do internships in product based companies, yeah, please go ahead. That is really great. Great.
So so what happens after 5 to 10 years in software engineering field? As I don't know the life of a software engineer after 5 to 10 years.
So my group engineering manager describes it very well. He says that the breadth of work increases, but the amount of the depth of your work will always will have the same importance. So the depth of work, the kind of things that you did in the very beginning will always be there. Like you start developing a system, if you write low level designs, like when you write classes in your application, that is kind of the start of your that is what you do in the start of your career. And then you design different services, then you take up scale, then you kind of understand which databases to choose, how to scale your systems, how to choose distributed systems, how would you write your scale your application, how would you make sure that you're maintaining your application even at a very large scale. Then gradually it increases. So what happens is you start to grow, and as you start to grow, you kind of consider yourself as a bird sitting in a perch. So you get a lot bigger view of everything. So what happens is basically you're kind of becoming if you consider it as a tree. Initially you are at the leaf and then you are jumping the internal nodes, and gradually you keep jumping. So the higher you jump in the internal nodes, the greater your horizontal this one increases, the number of children will increase. So the horizontal depth will increase, I mean the horizontal scale will increase, but vertically everything remains the same. So yeah, that's how software engineers evolve. Like they'll have a lot more to look into, but yeah, but at the very low level also things will remain the same. I mean the importance of everything will remain the same, just that it will increase horizontally.
Right. So how to approach for referrals to anyone?
You can, I mean, again, the same problem. Like if you are a fresher or already working, doesn't matter though. But you can simply go ahead and ask for a referral. You can say that these are your so and so. positive plus points. These are the so and so things you have worked on or developed. Can you please refer me to so and so company?
Right. So how should EC students prepare to get internships in Microsoft or Google?
Okay, tough question. I mean, because I do not have very good idea about how to get internships in Microsoft. Maybe I'll ask my recruiters and then post an answer. I mean, I'll suggest Shivam to post an answer for the same. But yeah, EC students see the basic is the same. Data structures and algorithms, you have to be very strong in them. So that is one of the ways. And then you I think, I don't know, you can try for Google Summer of Code and all of this stuffs, and then you can get a call. I'm not, see, I didn't do a single internship during my college, so I am like very weak in answering the internship part of the questions.
Right. So what type of projects makes good in resume?
Um, what kind of projects? Again, another tough question. Like, I don't really know what kind of projects makes a very good resume, but yeah, see, as long as you, I think, these days, e-commerce platforms are good. Maybe one or two technologies where you have, that are currently used in the used in the industry, and something that you have really, you have solved something really good. That would be a plus. Like, I think open sourcing is a very good option. Like, you contribute to open source codes. That is something which really helps in the resume,
Right.
because everybody does some project or the other. Yeah, I think these are some things that stand out. Shivam,
Right.
even if you have suggestions, also please go ahead, because there are certain questions I may not be able to answer.
Yeah, so my suggestion would be, so don't run behind like some fancy stuff like doing ML or AI. So you can at the same, you can have a like normal project, but the thing which matters is you're learning. So what at the end of the day, what you are learning from the project. So that matters. So that if it helps you during your work, so don't run behind that fancy technologies. You can even have a like decent project and learn a lot of from that. So that's what my take on this. So let's take the final question and then we'll wrap up. So as it's already 10, 12 minutes. So how
Yeah.
many referrals can someone current employee give in a time span of 1 month? So is there a limit to it? I don't
No, I
know.
don't think there is a limit to it. I
Right.
don't think there is a limit. Yeah.
Yeah, so even I don't think so. It was nice having you, Nayanava, here, and it was really an informative session. So I see a lot of comments from viewers that yeah, they really like the way you answered all the questions and the way you uh, suggested the example. So it was really helpful for them as well, and it was really informative. Thanks for taking out time.
Shivam, I'll take up one question. This guy Karthik Pant is continuously pinging. Maybe we should take up this question.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. I am a newbie in DSA. I'm about to go in fourth year. Is it possible for students like me who are late to crack? Okay. See, okay. So I started way late after the fourth year as well. I mean, I started when I was already 2 years into the industry. So the main focus is you have enough time still. I think you can spend time on studying data structures and algorithms now. Focus properly. Most important thing is schedule a timetable. Having a timetable is very important. You can schedule your timetable and prepare on the basis of the timetable. And is it possible for students like me who are, you are not late at all? You can easily crack product-based companies by the end of the fourth year. Just focus. Man, 1 year is a lot of time, especially for students. Uh, yeah, so do not have all those tensions in the mind. Listen, this is a suggestion to everybody. Don't think about things which are not under your control. Will I get a job? How will I be able to answer that question? Like, what will be the question that they are going to ask? Is something that is not in your control. What is in your control? How good you can solve the problem. If you have practiced a lot of problems, you will be able to solve that problem. As simple as that, right? So focus on the things which are in your control. Don't think about things which are not in your control. Will I be able to crack the company? If you have prepared properly, you will be able to crack the company. Until and unless something goes extremely haywire, you will be able to crack the company. So don't worry about all these things. Like, don't worry about anything that is not in your control. Focus on things which are in your control. Put your 100% in those. You will be good. Anybody will be good.
Right.
Somebody
So
wrote, yeah. Yep. Yeah, sure.
so I think
You want
we
to take
can wrap.
or yep, we can wrap up.
So if you want, you can take like one or two more questions. So I have multiple repetitions. How do I showcase my portfolio?
If you're talking about the resume, then I will tell you something like this. Go ahead and start with what is it that you are best in. That is the most important thing because that attracts a lot of attention. And then keep it concise. Do not have a resume which is very large. It is very important that you have a concise resume because the guys who are the recruiters will have to go through hundreds of resumes every day. It is very important that you keep it short, concise, and keep the most important points there. And it is very important that you can keep the different kinds of things that you have worked on. What are your strong points? What are your achievements? Very important. That will kind of help you in your portfolio.
Right. So one more question. So my fellow students are getting 25 plus certificates from Coursera and other platforms. How valuable are these certificates? Should I also do the same?
No, no, don't fall for all of these things. See, I'll tell you something. Certificates. So let's say, how do I say? Let's say somebody has done a MongoDB certification. Okay, what they are basically doing is they are basically writing MongoDB queries. They're understanding how to write MongoDB queries and all of these stuffs. Once the course has ended, they get a certificate. But that is not the problem because if you go to if you search online, you will get hundreds of places where you will get your how do I say you will get answers to all of these questions. What is important is how you can implement that. See, it's like you have multiple things in different places. When you are building a bridge, you put all of these things together and build the entire bridge, right? So it is important to understand the use case behind the technology rather than knowing the technology itself, or querying the technology, querying the database, something like querying the Elasticsearch. That is important. That is important, but that is not the most important thing. Most important thing is where to use it and how it works internally. That is the most important thing to understand about any technology. How it works internally is the most important thing because every technology, say let's say if we talk about databases, every database is designed to solve a specific use case, right? So when you have a use case to solve, you have to first filter out which particular use case your problem is pointing to, or which of these databases is solving your use case. To understand which of these databases is solving your use case, you do not need to know how to write select star from. You have to understand what it internally does, right? No, so that is important. Let's say if you have a huge scale, you would want to have a sharded database rather than a distributed database like MySQL. Reason being, it will not be able to handle scale, it will fail. So it is important to understand the technology properly. Certificates won't matter, believe me. I'll tell you my personal experience is, as I said, I go into the very depth of everything, understand the technologies properly. Once I understand the technology properly, I'm confident enough, and I know that I know better than all the people who are holding certificates.
Right. Totally great. So can you also speak like for a few minutes, some more about resume? So basically, a lot of students have doubts. How do they make effective resume?
Yeah, so as I said, see, it's very important to keep your resume short, concise, and compact. It is very important that you do not have 10 pages of resume. That becomes very difficult for somebody to read through. It is very important that you talk about your current the current technologies that you work on. You can demonstrate something which is kind of an achievement for you. Let's say I wrote phone page referral service. The entire referral of phone page is written by me. So now it's changing obviously, but at that time I wrote it. So I kind of have the ability to say that this is my achievement. Like I have written the entire referral service myself of an entire organization. So that is something, your achievements comes first. Like you can put your achievements in the very first place, and then the different technology stacks that you have worked on, and then you can put about your other rewards and recognitions. You can put about your different, yeah, if you are contributing to open source, that is a really good thing that you can put about in your resume. you can talk about the different projects and all of these stuffs. Yeah, that should be enough to enough in a resume to attract attention.
Right.
Shivam, you want to add something or?
So yeah, so I think you covered almost all the topics. So just one suggestion to everyone that don't miss any spelling mistakes or indentation errors, because when people are looking at the first time your resume, they should be able to clearly figure out what they are finding in the resume. So they should not be like if your font size is like different at different places, so it should be consistent. So that's what I have suggestion for you guys. So so I think now finally we can wrap up the session. It was really informative, and
Thanks to
I'm
everybody
getting,
for
yeah,
joining. Thanks to
getting
everybody
multiple
for
comments from,
joining.
yeah, so
Yeah.
multiple comments from students, like they really like the way you answered and giving examples. So it really helped them. So it
Yeah,
was nice.
please give feedbacks as well if there is something that I should improve on, because yeah, we do not know everything. I have given my perspective of information, so yeah, please leave feedbacks if something wasn't right. Maybe we can improve it in our next sessions if we have one.
Right, right. Because maybe you guys can put comments on this video itself, so we can visit those. So it was really nice session. So thanks, Nayanava, and I hope to have a session with you again sometime. Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Shivam. Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me. Thanks a
Yeah,
lot. Take care, guys. Stay safe.
yeah. You
Good
too.
night.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Right.